All right, so today we're going to start off our series on how to make a incremental slash idle game. And there's two things we need to go over. So first thing we need to go over is what kind of IDE do you need to use? So, I guess I should kind of go over what is an IDE. An IDE is an integrated developer environment, and basically this is sort of your word processor for your code. So you're going to go to VS Code or visualstudio.com, and you're going to come over to this section, and it should work for every operating system as long as you're using like a normal Linux distro or Windows or Mac. You should just be able to go ahead and download this. So we're not going to do any coding in this one. We're just going to do pre-planning and kind of talk about the scope of what we're going to do and some game design principles. But for now, you can go ahead and download that for whatever operating system you have, and then we'll kind of move on to our planning stage. I'm going to do all of the planning in just a Google Docs because it's kind of easier to compile the information there. Feel free to do it wherever you want. If you want to sketch out kind of like what you're doing and like do a Webflow chart or something like that, that's perfectly viable. I'm just going to write it down though. So for our first section, I think I'll just include kind of what features I want to do. So just like features, and then maybe I want to go over like save game, how to handle large numbers is like something I'm going to include. We'll go over just like basic incremental, like increments up with clicking. Talk about like idle functionality, and then we'll just keep moving on from there. But some important game design principles are basically that you want to make a minimum viable product. So you want to make something that is enjoyable in the smallest form factor that you can make it in. So come up with maybe a unique design concept, or maybe a specific type of game that you want to make, or a specific type of functionality that you want to make, and then make the most minimum viable version of that. So do the most basic boilerplate code, and then if you enjoy that and then you have other people test it and they like that, then you expand upon that idea. You don't want to have any feature creep in whatever design you're doing, because then the scope can get too big, and you want to keep a small scope, especially when you're starting out, because that makes it easier to handle the code, to handle like the actual project, and then to finish it. Because a big problem you have is like you might make something too big, like the scope's too big, and then you never really get around to actually like achieving that or finishing that. So when you pick a theme or you pick a scope, you want to do something that's like viable for you and builds upon your learning. So maybe you already know some of the basic like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript principles. So you want to make something that uses that foundation and then add something new. So maybe you add like a game tick time system or something like that into your code so that you're adding something new while building on the foundation that you already know. Um, so I think that's what we'll do. I was bouncing between doing a like Rust-based idle game, just because Rust is really popular right now, and then I was also going between doing a Escape from Tarkov based one because I thought that that'd be like a really unique type of game. But I think we'll go with the Rust one because we can do some easier concepts like early on, instead of jumping into something that's a little more advanced with like the Tarkov version. So I say that we do a Rust-based game, and everything's going to be surrounded around that. So we're going to do the materials that you find in Rust, and it's not going to be like a one-to-one scale. We'll change it up here and there, but it'll be pretty similar. So the materials will be stuff like wood, stone, metals, so on and so forth. And maybe we start with the basic ones like wood and stone, and then you gate block that. So then it unlocks as you get like certain materials and you move up to a certain extent. So there will be some like very rudimentary like base building, quote unquote, but we're going to keep all the graphics really simple, just to kind of keep it more based on the coding and how things work. So that just about wraps up the introduction and sort of like some of the pre-planning. I'm not going to go super in depth into this, other than just kind of like making an MVP and finding like one mechanic you really like our special mechanic will be crafting, and then we'll build it around that and go from there. So that's about it. And if we decide to add more, I'll just kind of I'll add that in as we go. Now, that is literally feature creep, and it's like being hypocritical, but for the sake of the tutorial series, we'll expand more if people want it. So that's about it, and have a good rest of your day.